Welcome, and thank you for joining us for the Barker's Fencing panel discussion supported by Data Centres Ireland. My name is Kirsten Hill and I'm the event manager for Data Centres Ireland. This discussion is entitled Protecting Your Data Centre's Reputation with Resilient Physical Security. After this webinar has been held, it will be available as on-demand content via the Data Centres Ireland website. Data Centres Ireland will physically be held on the 16th to 17th of November at the RDS in Dublin, and those wishing to register for the event can do so again via the website. This webinar is pre-recorded. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat box and the speakers will contact you directly after the webinar. And now I would like to hand you over to Jess.
I'm Jess, the marketing manager at Barker's Fencing, part of HS Security. We're currently working with data center providers across the EMEA and Asia Pacific, providing high security perimeter fencing for their data centers. I'm joined by our marketing and sales director, Adam. Adam has been with Barker's for 20 years and has a breadth of first-hand experience in dealing with data center clients and their construction teams. And we're also joined by George, head of security at NextDC. NextDC are an Australian data center provider who own one of the most highly secure data centers in Australia, holding personal information and top secret data for many of the largest companies in the world. Last month, NextDC announced that they had received certification by the Australian federal government as a certified strategic hosting partner for data center services. As the highest level of certification available, NextDC will continue to assist the government to protect and preserve the security of Australia. We're here to discuss how resilient physical security can enhance and protect your data center's reputation. With the rise of reliance on data centers are becoming an increasingly vital part of critical infrastructure around the world. First of all, let's talk about the potential risks and threats to a data center. George, as someone whose role it is to secure a data center holding critical data, what do you see as the risks?
Look, very interesting question, and really depends on your environment and the location your data center is at. There are many risks that we consider here in Australia as part of NextDC. Some of them are more trusted insiders, the criminals, your terrorists. Whilst we don't have a very high level of threat from terrorism, it is considered. But even things as simple as the ability to respond and act to a breach in your environment, that's captured in our risk portfolio. We live in a disrupted digital world, and there is so many known, but even more unknown threats out there. And being able to adopt a proactive, ready for anything approach to security is crucial. Like everything we do today, you have to be flexible and agile in your security posture, not only your physical, but your cyber security posture as well. You can have all the layers of defense starting at your perimeter, but often we find the weakest link is human error. That's the biggest risk that's faced not only in the data center world, but across the whole breadth of security. You can have the best firewall, you can have the best physical security environment, have a one wrong click or one wrong access provider to a profile, and all of a sudden you can find yourself being compromised. So in our roles as security, we have to be ready for anything and have options in the way we respond and be able to move quickly to isolate and carry on with minimal business interruption if or when we are impacted. I think key is to address your risks, you have to start with your core security systems. That doesn't just mean your electronic systems, that means your physical security environments, as well as that being supported by cutting edge technology, education, and awareness of your staff. It's all intertwined into the various risks.
Yeah. Adam, do you see similar risks in other areas?
Yeah, to be honest, I think there's a lot of risks, and I think the risks with data centers will probably grow as people, whether they be criminals, terrorists. I know Australia doesn't have a huge terrorist threat, thankfully, but criminals, terrorists, whether it be people who are looking to even protest against whoever's data is inside the building or just malicious damage. I think as people begin to learn more and more what data centers are, what they do, their significance, and of course the disruption you could cause by attacking one of them, I think there's more chance that'll happen. And so, as George says, it's a hugely holistic approach to look from everything from the perimeter, anti-personnel fences, gates, etc., HVM products, right the way through to the way that you let your own people inside the data center and you manage them and their access, etc., all the way through to cyber. So, yeah, for me, I think it's a huge task really for data center providers, especially because they will be working with different clients who will have different sets of requirements. So, George, I don't know I think I hope to know what your take is, but you know, for me, most data centers, if they aspire to deal with some of the bigger corporations and clients and governments and sell their data storage space to them, they probably want to go for, as I think you've said in the past, the kind of the gold standard of security, because that way, I'm assuming your sales guys will be comfortable. They can sell their space to pretty much anyone if you've got those facilities.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Adam mentioned there, George, your vision to have the gold standard of security. Can you tell us a little bit more about this?
Look, either is that customers don't just come to a data center to seek economies of scale. They come to ensure that their environments are safe and secure. So part of that is you've got to be able to offer something different, and we invest heavily into our security posture with multi-layered systems and protocols in place to ensure we protect their critical infrastructure. And just as our data centers are built to support the needs of our customers, our security protocols follow suit as well. Key to it all is having a very mature security risk management incorporated into all your decisions. And that's what we build our gold standard on. It's something that we do at NEXTDC and value partners who have a similar philosophy. That's key in delivering that standard. And for us as a co-location provider, where we have multiple people with different varying levels of security requirements, it's critical not only to understand this in the concept of our own security posture, but also how we can provide that level of assurance to our customers and how we deliver that. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's not just the physical and electronic security, it's also the integration of various standards as well. So when you look at things like ISO 27001, PCI, and other standards that are out there, they all have a blend of security requirements, whether they be physical or cyber, that you can add to that adds value to your portfolio. What we do is that we incorporate physical, cyber, supply chain security, and personnel security as verticals, and they're all intertwined into our portfolio. And it's crucial that you have these right security tools deployed with the right partnerships. You know, you have to have those right partnerships, and the ability to unify all of these environments is what helps us achieve a gold standard in security. And it starts from the perimeter. You know, you've got to start at the perimeter. Yeah,
well, I mean, when we look at the perimeter, the first thing we talk about to data center providers are tested systems. So that whichever kind of standard they want to go for, whether it be an LPCB SR2 or SR3, or we have clients who are led by CPNI UK government standards or ASTM American standards. Those are the first things we talk to the clients about, because that gives them some peace of mind that the product will perform as intended. There's good auditing procedures, and moreover, really, if, as you said, you want to work with good partners who are certified by these independent bodies. In theory, I know that we certainly are, but we certainly have the highest standards of manufacture, delivery, material traceability, everything, so that what we provide actually does the job, and you can use those standards to help build your threat assessment and make sure that it's going to do the job that you need, because your threat assessment will ultimately be slightly different to another DC's threat assessment. Mm-hmm. So you've got to make sure the key to it is working with people who can give you something that's appropriate for your setup.
And look, if I could add to that too, it's not about today as well. It's about looking into the future. So that's what we look for in partners and strive to build that relationship, because we want to have the best of breed, and we want to be ahead of the curve. And as Barkers understands fencing, we will lean on people like Barkers to make sure that we are always ahead of the curve in what we're providing in our environment.
Yeah, and I know you guys, obviously, I've seen some of your data centres, and they're big buildings, but unusually attractive looking things. And I know you're really keen, certainly on some of the HVM side of things, and you can't give away any trade secrets, but I know that you quite like innovative products and, perhaps presenting as friendly a face as you can to some of your data centres. Now, is that led by your own decisions, or is that led by local planning laws, etc., etc.?
Look, some of the big challenges we face is that we actually, all our DCs reside within the metropolitan environment. So there are a lot of development applications that we have to provide and laws that we have to adhere by. So you're right, we try and be innovative in the way we design our HVM. We do get a lot in our portfolio. It's not just a case of developing the DC in a 2.4 by palisade fence or a 3 metre 358 welded mesh fence. It's how do we integrate everything to enable our facility to be built in the environments they're in, have the aesthetics that are pleasing enough to be in those environments, but also that we can actually talk to customers when we bring them to our sites about the security layering and what we've actually done to mitigate the threats. When you're talking about HVM, having bollards everywhere sometimes does not look appealing, and I can tell you now there's certain councils around Australia that might prohibit it. Yeah. So you've got to think different ways to mitigate those circumstances. So, whether it's through planter boxes, whether it's through the planting of trees, there's various ways to do it. But having that understanding and that development, and then being able to rely on partners to help you with that, and how to then incorporate it into the broader perimeter of the facility is key to making sure that you've got that first line of defence security portfolio.
Yeah, we see this as well, and I think perhaps in Europe maybe things are slightly different to some of your planning laws. We see that some of the data centres here, they want a quite resilient, strong-looking fence as that first line of deterrent. But that said, a lot of them are in slightly more, edge of town, edge of city, or more rural locations, where perhaps they don't quite have the same aesthetic constraints that some of your DCs do. Obviously, for them, that presents other challenges in getting the infrastructure to these areas. So it's a difficult one to level up as to what you should do. But we get asked to try and produce fences that can look a bit more imposing at times. And we have fences which have HVM measures built into them, such as our StrongGuard RCS. And that means that what you get is a palisade fence that looks like a palisade fence, but it's also got HVM measures in, so you don't necessarily need the bollards. And I think in the long term, we're going to see more and more of that kind of thing around entrances, especially on some of the big sites that are more rural.
Yeah. Look, some of the challenges we also face is that we do treat a lot of different scales of customers. So you can't have the one size fits all, but we do try and build a unique niche in this environment and how we treat that. So obviously we look at different ways to do the mitigation to the threats.
Yeah,
we see real emphasis on cybersecurity. Do your customers ask you about physical security?
Yes, it is definitely something that is asked, it's questioned, it's audited. We have a lot of questionnaires that we respond to. Effectively, the data center security, it's evolved exponentially over time. It's not no longer just a plain physical wall. It's gone into a multi-layered, virtual-based model, and deliver that protection for our customers. So it's a convergence of both physical and cyber. But yes, our customers are very big on the physical security. They're very big on the layering that we offer. How do we do it? How do we maintain that environment? And it's a challenge, but it's a good challenge to have. And it's pleasing in the fact that when you walk customers through our environment and through the different layers of the physical security and how we've integrated and converged the cyber part and the electronic part, it makes sense for them as they walk through our environment.
Yeah.
It's something.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say, with the cybersecurity, do you guys have particular standards? I mean, are there kind of a set standard for the cybersecurity, or is there, a bit like fencing, there's so many different standards for you to choose from?
Well, look, I think I mentioned we do have the ACSC here in Australia. We also, look to NIST. We look to SOC Type 1 and 2. We look to PCI. They're all integrated throughout our portfolios, as is ISO. So there is a mixture, I guess is the best way to put it, for the cyber, and I think that's come a lot from the physical environment as they continue to evolve in the electronic world. I think you'll find there's a lot of trends that are very similar to how the physical security environment evolved, the continuing upping in the standards and the differentiating factors that come across the varying standards.
Yeah, I mean, likewise, then, do you guys have set physical perimeter standards, whether that be for fencing or gates, or do you have a bit more leeway with that, really?
There's a bit more leeway on that one. And if I can say, it's actually quite funny. The vehicle dynamic assessments that we conduct on our facilities, I know for a fact, is that we use the CPNI Hostile Vehicle Mitigation Guide. We find that as a standard that's got a lot more rigor to it. It suits our environment. The methodology is very similar to the posture we want to incorporate into our environment. And then we try and obviously build it through and incorporate it through our SEPTED as well, to get the right physical mitigation measures across our portfolio. So, I thought I might surprise you with that one, because we definitely look around the world for the best of not only the best of breed for what we put into our data center from a security point of view, but also the best standards. And that's key to it, because that's your foundation.
It is, yeah. And I think you're right. There's a number of standards for you to look at, first of all, and then decide which one suits your threat assessment, really.
So we do have what's called the Protective Security Policy Framework here in Australia. There's an Australian government. It has a lot of key differentiators compared to other standards in the world. But again, if you don't look outside your own little bubble, then eventually you're going to be left behind. And key for me in my role, especially when I've got to deliver the best security in a DC, and deliver a gold standard is what I've been promising to my organisation. If I don't expand my research and look abreast of Australia, then I'm not doing my job. And hence why I was able to reach out to yourselves and partners like Genetec and Gunner Bay. None of them actually reside in Australia. They all are international companies.
Yeah, I suppose international experience kind of brings new ways of thinking, etc. I mean, some of the ways that you guys we've seen do it in Australia are slightly different to our experiences over here, which is why it was so good to get you onto this today, I think.
No, it's a pleasure, and I guess talking to a lot of my peers internationally, it's opened my eyes to the varying environments and what happens overseas, and having had the privilege to visit a lot of data centers in both Asia and Europe has, I guess, enabled me to think about strategically what we do here in Australia for NextDC, and what is the best way forward for us.
Yeah. Aside from the potential physical damage that can be done with a security breach, what are the wider consequences?
Oh, geez. Where do you start? The cost of the breaches, is reputational, competition, regulatory compliance. It can be catastrophic for businesses. So you've got to make the right security considerations when you're looking to deploy into your environments. Security is not a technology problem. It's a business problem. And when you have a breach, it affects the whole business. So, the damage could be quite long-lasting.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I should imagine if I was one of your sales accounts managers and one of your competitors had a breach, then I'm sure that would perhaps be mentioned as a reason why they'd want to use NextDC rather than the competition. And for me, it goes all the way down to, some data centers have roads running along next to them. Even if there was something as small as, well, not really small, but, even if something as an accidental collision with the fence and a car went through it, that effectively exposes a weakness that perhaps people in the wider world didn't realise was there before, and that even an accident could affect the reputation.
Yeah, look, all those sort of disruptions, they come with significant bottom line and reputational risk. So again, it's key that you've got to start at your perimeter. You've got to really think about what is the threat you're trying to mitigate, and how do you do that to the best of your ability, and obviously, provide the right environment for your situation.
Yeah, and so you have a good deal of. Do you use detection systems and cameras? I should imagine there's a good deal of technology that actually bolts onto the physical products as well.
Yeah, look, we provide a very integrated solution that starts at the perimeter from an intrusion detection point of view. So it's key. All our environment is intertwined. It's a unified system we use, so all our alarms go back to a central location. And it's addressed within a timely manner. We have obligations that we have to meet, not only for our customers but ourselves internally. We set ourselves KPIs that we have to meet, and it's key, and that's what helps drive our gold standard security.
NextDC have recently become certified by the Australian Federal Government as a certified strategic host. Yep. What does that mean for you?
Look, it was very pleasing, to be honest. It provides a recognition of compliance that's in alignment with the high certification requirements for NextDC's data centers, and assures government organisations that we at NextDC have been independently assessed and approved that we deliver on the highest standards in data centre security and sovereignty. The framework itself ensures that the increased security provisions that we have to protect privacy and improve resilience. So for our customers, it means they can partner with us with the knowledge that we have a national footprint of facilities that have undergone this rigorous stress test and audit scrutiny. So achieving the highest level of data certification from our government, further endorses the quality and integrity of our data services and my portfolio.
So that's very similar to us undergoing so much third-party testing of our products, and not only our products but our systems and ability to consistently deliver them. So I suppose it adds weight to everything we do.
I guess it gives everyone confidence that we can do what we say we're going to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's the best.
Real.
Sorry, Jess.
Sorry. Given that data centers given that some data centers hold government and given that some data centers hold data for government and big corporations, could terrorism be a real threat?
Look, you'd be crazy not to think so. You have to have it as part of your threat assessment. You have to have it in your risk portfolio. It's actually a very interesting topic because until I started researching data centers internationally and their threats and their risks and their environments, it wasn't as prevalent. As I said earlier, in Australia, we're lucky we don't have that higher level of threat yet, I guess. As you mentioned earlier, Adam, the more and more data centers get exposed to what they do, the more and more they become a potential target. So, this is a very interesting topic. And at the moment, it really depends on your geographic location and your threat environment. In short, it definitely could be. And it is something that we do look at in our threat assessments, and how do we mitigate against that in our portfolio.
Yeah, I would think that from your point of view, seeing the way that terrorist attacks have developed around the world, HVM will play a big part in that, and especially it's good to understand how you look at that from a kind of, especially with your local regulatory pressures, in a more aesthetically pleasing way. That's what a lot of the time we should strive to do, to provide perimeter security that can look good and fitting in that environment.
Yeah, look, like I said earlier, it is a bit of a challenge that we face, and I'm proud to say that we do have certain data centers in our portfolio that you will not be able to see our HVM in place unless it was actually pointed out to you, and that's purely because we've engaged with security consultants and partnered with them, and we've partnered with other security providers to enable us to deliver a very secure product and aesthetically pleasing, as is required sometimes by local authorities, especially in Australia. They're very big on it.
Mm-hmm. We saw in April earlier this year the news report of a Texas man. Luckily, the plot was foiled. He planned to blow up an Amazon data center because he believed they were holding FBI data. I guess you don't see that, but that is quite a real threat, kind of, that we see, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite a shocking story, and one that you would hope we wouldn't hear of again. But if you bear in mind that an attack of that nature wouldn't just be a threat to the data center, the reputation, the data inside, that's a threat to the people, putting the people who work there at risk if that had happened. So, it was an attack on a data center, but it also highlights that there are terrorist risks still out there for data centers and other projects. Let's be honest, lockdowns have kind of subdued the number of terrorist risks, but as the world opens up again, we're probably going to see more and more of this type of thing, sadly. So, yeah, there's a big project there to consider. As George has said, you would be mad not to think about the terrorist threat.
Mm-hmm. We find that typically perimeter security solutions are only a couple of % of construction costs. So do you see it as a false economy to use cheaper systems and compromise security?
Look, the one thing that people have to consider is that any security system is as strong as its weakest link. I'll use Reason Swiss cheese concept, where he argues that there are hidden weaknesses in every protective layer, which normally they compensate for each other. Occasionally, these holes, in the cheese line, and they create a path through which a security incident can occur. So why put yourself in that situation? Whilst the perimeter fence, will and can be breached, let's not kid ourselves.
Absolutely.
By a determined adversary. The goals are to deter, deflect, divert, and deny. And you always want to project this image of a secure operation. And key to is the time to delay that will help minimise any impact if you have a compromise. So, that's the first step to stopping the creation of a domino effect. Yeah. So you really need to determine your risk, what you are protecting, and invest accordingly. People should see security as a differentiator and a driver or protector of their revenue, not a cost saving. So, compromising on security from the start and the perimeter is your start, it sets you up for failure.
Yeah, I wonder what kind of message that sends out to clients if the security isn't of a particularly high standard, really. And it does amaze me when we do see projects whereby perhaps they should, in my opinion at least, have been looking at tested systems to give them that confidence and to complement everything else they do with the cybersecurity. And they often wind up, we've seen projects in Europe with relatively basic mesh fences, the kind of ones that, in terms of some of the testing we do, wouldn't last a minute with really, really basic tools that an opportunist burglar would carry, let alone a determined attacker. And it does seem like a false economy. And to me, it feels like the security, whilst not giving away the secrets of what you've got, is something that would be a benefit if everybody almost shouted about that to let people and their clients have the confidence in them.
Look, if I can add to that, we actually use our perimeter as a bit of a selling point in our collateral, and it's deliberate because we're proud of what we deliver. And again, it's what are you trying to protect, and what are you trying to offer to your customers, and use it as a differentiator, and make sure that you show them that you're using this as part of your protection of their equipment. And, again, we can't not deny that it will be breached, but it's that time that we can cause to delay or even cause them to think twice about where they're going to try and penetrate. So, I'll use your mesh security scenario. If they were standing in a laneway and on one side they had your, let's say a 2.4 metre high anti-scalable palisade fence, with an anti-dig plinth, and on the other side they had your wire security mesh, which fence are they going to go for?
I totally agree. This is why, as I said earlier, some clients prefer a more imposing looking fence, because a lot of the time with data centres, people aren't exactly sure what goes on inside. And if we regularly talk about the difference between mesh and palisade, and some people think that mesh looks a little more friendly and softer, whereas palisade can be considered to look a little more imposing and obtrusive, but both have a place. There'll be occasions where a mesh fence is more than adequate, and there'll be times when a palisade fence will deter people simply because of the look of it. But in any case, you can get these products from ourselves and other providers that have the same delay rating. They've both been independently attacked, whether you want a 1 minute, a 3 minute, a 5 minute version. So, it'll do the same job. Then you can start considering the aesthetics. But really, the starting point should be the security level.
Correct. And that's why it's key to have that threat assessment and base all your decisions via your threat assessment. And you've got to be able to sell that back into your business.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
George, as a provider, what should people look for in a physical security partner?
Look, I'll speak from my experience. Key is obviously one, having experience in securing critical infrastructure. Secondly, is someone that's reputable, who can give impartial advice and help you choose the most appropriate solutions for your site. And also, you must have an alignment. Their vision should be similar to what your vision is. I think I've mentioned it a few times. Our vision is continuing to be strive to be leaders in data center security. So, for me, I look for partners that have that sort of same vision with their products and want to continue to improve in what they're doing, and are proud of what they sell. Because we're proud of our DCs. We have a very unique brand, and we're very proud of it. And we want to partner with security, especially physical security providers, that have that same level of pride in their work and their workmanship and their products.
Yeah. I'm just a bit further on that. Is when you're looking to work with a partner, are there any kind of new things that you'd like them to help you overcome? Any new challenges you can foresee?
Look, there's always challenges that you get faced with, and obviously there's perception. So the harnessing of security is managing the perception, and you touched on it a little bit earlier with the welded mesh and the palisade. People have a perception that one's weaker than the other, but in actual fact, one can be stronger than the other, or they can be as strong as each other.
It's not what's appropriate on that for that circumstance, yeah.
Yeah, correct. So the challenges, I guess, facing us is more around how do we manage that perception while improving the security posture. So whilst the posture may have increased, the perception of the product we've deployed may look less. How do we manage that? How do we ensure that we can show not only our customers, but internally to ourselves that, yes, we've now taken another level in our security posture, and this is it. Let's go sing it from the rooftop. And that's key. That's what we really value.
It can be tricky because we have, if we compare a couple of our products, we have a mesh fences to LPS 1175 SR2 rating, B3, and we now have two different versions. And one looks the older version looks like there's a lot more steel and it's a lot more chunky, whereas the new version is a little more friendly because of the way we've designed it. But that's using a little bit of experience and intelligence and product development. But in truth, the older product actually looks like it perhaps might be a little harder to breach, even though they both pass the same test, they have the same delay time, etc., etc. So, yeah, I think it's really managing that message that something doesn't necessarily look weaker, it can be a little cleverer.
And look, and that goes back to, I think, the question that we started on this topic, and that is, what do you look for in partners? So when partners come to us and say, hey, we've done this development, we've enabled this product, it's as strong as what we had, but it looks a lot more aesthetically pleasing. Yeah. We need to be able to go to market together on that front. So that's what a partner will do, and that's what we look for, the ability to partner. Let's say if we were to use Barker's Fencing, it's the ability to come together and go to market together and know that you have our backs and we have your backs.
Absolutely.
Adam, from your experiences, what other challenges can a physical security partner help with?
I think that when we see, if you look at the data center build, we see quite a lot of challenges in integrating different products. So when you look at the perimeter, of course, there's all the technology side, but even just within the physical perimeter, there might be sliding gates, bifolding gates, blockers, rising arm barriers, turnstiles that go with the fence line. So we've seen a lot of issues in the integration of all these products for the data center providers when they're pulled from here, there, and everywhere. Because ultimately somebody has to be the central point that talks and brings them all together. So from our point of view, fortunately, we have a pretty, well, I won't say the broadest range of products, but certainly a very broad range of products that incorporates turnstiles, sliding gates, bifolding gates, rising arms, etc., etc., etc. And I do think it can be a real challenge to pick the right products that can then talk to each other, have the same security ratings, and look in keeping. So we've seen that challenge quite a great deal, and that's something that when we get the opportunity to talk to clients such as George or some of our other partners at an early stage, we feel we can add some value and help make that entire process go a little more smoothly.
Finally, guys, what would your top tips of things to consider be when designing and implementing physical security?
Do you want to? Well, for me, I think it would be probably early engagement. I think looking at the threat assessment, whether you work with your own internal teams or with external security consultants, of which there are some really, really great ones out there, and then engage with manufacturers. There's plenty of us out there. Look for someone, as George says, that offers impartial advice, but engage with us as early as you can, because we're always trying to develop products and we're always looking to add products to our portfolio. And if we can provide a solution at the start, then I think everybody knows the direction they're going in and it's appropriate. So that'd be probably my number one.
Yeah, look, I tend to agree. What I would look for first and foremost is make sure you partner with the right people, and then think about what it is you're trying to secure and work together to look at the threats and how do you mitigate those threats. And it's through the right partnership that you are able to do this. But it is, Adam, you hit the nail on the head. It's early engagement. Yeah. You can't have the design of your building completed and ready to be built and then engage your security environment. It's too late. If you aren't in there from the day that the site is even thought about, you've missed the boat. So it's not only early engagement internally, it's also early engagement of your partners to make sure that you provide the best opportunity to put security in there as a differentiator and a value add to your portfolio.
Yeah, definitely. I think I would, even some of the data center providers who aren't necessarily doing that early engagement, I think that what I would recommend would be that they would either go to some of the exhibitions or at least do as much research into physical security as they can, engage with security consultants, because they should really be looking at third-party accredited fences, gates, etc., because if products and companies can't pass those tests, then that probably tells you a story about that particular product, which, don't get me wrong, for more commercial, low-risk environments are more than adequate, and we produce fences of that type. But when it comes to something as important as a data center, I think that conversation really needs to be had early. I think we've lost Jess somewhere on the line. But yeah, I think that's probably all from me, George. From my point of view, a big thank you. I think I've learned a lot, which is great. It's great to get a different perspective from a different data center market. So yeah, thank you very much for your time. I know it's a little late for you there now, but really appreciate it. Thank you.
No, look, I'd like to thank yourself, Adam, for inviting me along, and Barkers, and obviously Data Centers Ireland for this opportunity. It's really great to be able to share the messaging outside of Australia, and it's key because data centers are becoming more and more critical to everything we do in our day-to-day environments, and it's fantastic to have these opportunities. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's been great, and I really look forward to having more conversations in the future.
Likewise. And Barkers Fencing are exhibiting at Data Centers Ireland from the 16th to 17th of November 2021. So please pop along and see us. Thanks a lot. Cheers. Bye.